name is Saaroni. My maiden name was Fishman. I was born in Lublin, Poland. We were a middle-class family. My father had a business, a clothing business. We were 4 children. I was the youngest. I had 2 brothers and a sister. When the war started, I just turned 13. The first couple of years I was together with my parents, first in the ghetto. Then we moved to a small, that was I think in the middle of 1941, that we moved to a small township that the Jews could live freely there, not in a ghetto, but they were not allowed to leave the place. By middle of 1942, summer 1942, we were in the morning, we heard shots. It was very early in the morning. We ran out, we ran into the fields and made our way to the forest to hide. After several hours, when everything was quietened down, we made our way back to the township. On the way, in a meadow, we saw people crying. When we came closer, we saw 12 men lying with their heads together, forming a circle. It looked like a clock. They had their faces to the ground, and they were all shot in the neck. About 50 yards away, there was a young girl about my age, in her sleep, lying outstretched on the grass, with half of her head, all the top, missing, with the brain and pieces of bone scattered on the grass. She had wide open eyes, full of terror. Her mouth was open too, probably from her last cry. At that time, doesn't matter what we saw, what we experienced. We just couldn't accept it. It was too horrible to comprehend. They won't kill all of us, that's ridiculous. Who will do a thing like that? We saw people being taken away, never seen again. Although we heard all kinds of rumors, we just didn't want to believe in it. My parents decided that I should go on my own, pretending to be a Polish Christian girl, and to go to Germany to work. At that time, the Poles had to send out people to work to Germany. It was compulsory for them. Now, when I heard about the plans my parents had for me, I was horrified. I just turned 16. And I couldn't imagine even one day on my own, in faraway place, surrounded by hostile people, and playing a part, being somebody else. And I suppose it was the first time that I really stood up for myself. And I said to my mother, no, I am not going anywhere. Whatever will happen to you will happen to me. And my mother started to cry. And she said to me, look, what do you want from our lives? Why do you have to complicate it? It's still more than it is. You know that nothing will happen to us. They don't need older people. She was in her mid-40s. But if they will take you away, I won't live through it. If we will know that you are safe, we will be able to look after ourselves better, and it will be easier for us. Now, as much as I didn't want to be separated, on the other hand, I didn't want to be a burden to them. And she made me feel guilty. I felt a burden. So on the spur of the moment, I said, okay, you want me to go, I will go. But I was very, very angry with her for forcing me to do something against my will. And when we parted, I didn't even say a proper goodbye. And that was the last time that I saw them. I finished up working in Hamburg, in Germany, in a factory with 47 girls. The work was not physically hard. It was very long and monotonous. Food was very bad, but we didn't starve as the people who were in the camps. Now, I just want to give you an idea what it meant to live a life of lies. When you tell one lie, you have to cover it up with other lies. There were times that I was completely confused. I was scared every minute of the day and night of being recognized. If somebody just glanced at me, my inside used to turn over. I was sure that they could recognize me. But at the same time, I couldn't show that I was scared. I had to look everyone straight in the face. I had to dance, I had to sing, I had to laugh while I was crying inside. I could not be different from the others. And I could not trust anyone. I was scared to fall asleep because I was scared that I will talk in my sleep. And I was torturing myself, trying to keep awake. But it didn't work. On the other hand, I looked forward to the night, to my dreams, because that was the only escape that I had. All through the war, I never once remembered that the war was raging outside. I was always home, happy, surrounded by my family. And somehow that gave me strength to live through the days. Now, while Hamburg was burning, and every night another town was being destroyed, the police or the Gestapo, they still had time and patience to look for me because I committed such a tremendous crime of being born Jewish. And they found me. I was taken into Gestapo headquarters. How long I was there, I really can't tell. The time stopped for me there completely. I just remember standing all day long, from morning till night, next to the Gestapo men, facing the wall, with my hands in handcuffs. At night time, I was taken down to the cellars. I wasn't physically mistreated. I wasn't given any food, not even water to drink. I was just purely ignored. Except the first day that I was interrogated, they even didn't bother talking to me. I was like a piece of furniture there. After a couple of days, I couldn't feel any more hunger or thirst or tiredness. I was completely detached from my body. And I just gave up. Life wasn't worth living anymore. And I wanted to end it. So I turned around to the Gestapo man and I told him, I will tell you the truth. I am Jewish and you can shoot me. I wanted him to shoot me. But he said, oh no, you are too young. You can still work. I was put in a jail where I spent a month. Then they put me on a transport, and I was told that I am going back to my hometown, Majdanek. Majdanek was the second largest extermination camp, and it was built on the outskirts of the town where I was born. How I managed to do it, I really don't know. People say, oh, you must have been very clever and very, very brave. But that's not the truth. I wasn't brave, far from it. I was petrified. I wasn't clever because having the time to plan, I would never had the courage to do it. I was like an animal. I did everything instinctively, on an impulse. And I succeeded. And I was praying to God, please, please, God, let the train move. And then suddenly it started moving. So I relaxed. After a while, I saw a man checking the tickets. When he was about 2 compartments from mine, I slipped out and went to the toilet and locked myself in. In the toilet there was a mirror, and I looked into the mirror, and I couldn't believe what I saw. I couldn't recognize the face looking back at me. At that time I was 17 years old, and I looked like 70. My face was yellow, like wax. I had big rings under my eyes. My lips were completely burned out, were black. I don't know why, but black. My hair were hanging down, full of fat, full of stuff that they put in against the lice. But the worst were my eyes. They were crazy eyes. I tried to smile to take away the craziness out of them. But what I managed is just to move my mouth, but it didn't reach the eyes. By the end, I couldn't stay there longer. So slowly, I made my way back to the compartment. Now, I lost all my family that I left behind in Poland. When I returned, there was no one left. I wasn't welcome there. And it wasn't home anymore. I didn't belong there. So we had to get out. I joined a group of people like me, without families. And illegally, we were crossing the borders until, by the end, we managed to reach Palestine. Now, in Palestine, I joined Haganah. I took part in the War of Independence. I got married there. My 2 children were born there. And in 1953, in December, I came to Australia. Not really to settle, but just to live a couple of years without wars. and I started to have nightmares. Night after night, I was running, hiding, swimming, trying to get away, and doesn't matter what I did, I was always caught at the end. I used to wake up in the middle of the night with my heart pounding and wet from perspiration, and it took me a long time to go back to sleep. But the minute that I fell asleep, it continued. I was even scared to mention it to a doctor because he will say I'm crazy. I accepted it as normal. After what I went through, I had to find a way to live with it. So I blocked out my past. I never talked about it. For 42 years, I never talked about my past. Not even with my husband, not with my children. The first time that I tried to share my experiences was in '83 through Sabcia, without having to talk. I became completely obsessed with it. I had to get it out from my system. And I worked and worked for a few months only about the Holocaust. And after a few months, I stopped and I was completely exhausted. I looked around at what I created. But in a way, I felt a bit lighter, but I still could not talk about it. It's only after I wrote my life story that I became free. And I remember exactly the minute that I put the last word, the end, when I looked out at the window, and suddenly everything was so beautiful. The sun was shining, the birds were singing. I never saw it before. And I felt like I could fly together with them. I was free, I was alive.